Welcome to Fighting Back. News talk, current events, and political commentary with your host, Uncle Ronnie. And now, here's your host, Uncle Ronnie.
Hello. This is Uncle Ronnie. And we also have some comments by Uncle Joe. But before we do that, you're probably, if you see me here, you'll see that I'm all alone. And that's not true. We're telephonically communicating with Gloria Fox. Gloria, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, and then we also have our special guest, the Republican National Chairwoman from the state of Arizona, the Honorable Lori Klein Corbin. Are you there?
I'm here. It's a National Committee woman.
National Committee woman. Okay.
I don't think Kelly Ward wants me to take her place.
Well, I won't say anything. Just keep my mouth shut. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. We wanna start out here with this is they call me Uncle Ronnie, so we want to hear Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, what do you have to say? Number one.
We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what. No matter what.
Okay, could you do that one more time? I
We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what. No matter what.
If we take care of the cure, it'll make the disease worse. I don't quite understand that. At any rate, this man was, we'll get ready to do number two. This guy was a professor.
Sorry, go ahead.
When I left the United States Senate, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
Okay, that's probably fake news, even though he said it. He was not a professor at the University of Pennsylvania or any other university that we know of, because Mr. Biden only received an honorary degree, so he wasn't a classroom educator. But there's some good news and bad news in that. So, Mr. O'Connor, let's hear what the good news is.
The good news is the bad news. The bad news is people know me. The good news is they know me.
What'd he say? You play that over. I didn't understand.
The good news is the bad news. The bad news is people know me. The good news is they know me.
Okay. Did either of you ladies understand that?
We couldn't.
No.
We can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything. Okay.
Yep.
That's not good. Okay. And then we go to the interview about acting like a president. Mr. O'Connor, can you make sure they can hear? You can't? They can't. Okay. Yes. Play number 4.
Why doesn't he just act like a president? That's a stupid way to say it.
You know,
I guess,
Donald
but I
Trump was
really
asked
wish
on...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, probably best I don't. I don't know, it's like watching a yo-yo. I shouldn't have said it that way. It's like
It
watching...
feels that way. I want to ask... It's okay.
The interviewer there was just cracking up. She couldn't believe that the vice president said this. So let's go one step further. This man now has gone on the air every afternoon, and he has a plan to help and save America from the virus. Go ahead.
And in addition to that, we have to make sure that we are in a position that we are... Well, let me go to the second thing. I've spoken enough of it.
Okay, for those of you that can hear this out there in the audience, once again, what did this man say? This is outrageous. And did he have the sniffles in this one, Mr. O'Connor?
Excuse me.
You're supposed to cough into your elbow. I don't know, sir. I learned that actually covering your White House.
Actually, that's true, but fortunately I'm alone in my home, but that's okay.
All right.
I agree. You're right.
You should it's kind of old school to do it with your hand.
Okay, well, this is a man here that's going to be running for the President of the United States. It's almost a sure thing, but we have some real serious doubts that he's going to make it through the convention. And there's a governor in New York, and the governor of New York, Cuomo, has been on the air every day for an hour or so across the nation. I don't understand why we don't. He's given news from New York, and I'm not sure we really need that here. But anyway, what did Mr. Cuomo have to say? That's number 7.
Yeah, my mother is not expendable. And your mother is not expendable. And our brothers and sisters are not expendable. And we're not going to accept a premise that human life is disposable.
Okay, he says that nobody is expendable, especially no human life is expendable. This comes from the governor of New York, who has the most liberal abortion policies in the world, where you can abort a baby up until the time the baby's born. And if the baby is born alive, you can just put the baby on an operating table and let it die. But he's out there telling the American people that no life is expendable. Another Democrat lie. Now, I wanted to go on here. We had some other issues. Now, the question is, why is America so vulnerable, especially New York City? And here's one of the reasons why. Because there's a New York City health commissioner. Her name was Barrett. I can't pronounce her first name. Barbat, however you pronounce that. A Democrat appointed to, she's the head doctor in the medical profession in the city of New York. Go ahead, Mr. O'Connor. That's 1B.
The risk to New Yorkers for coronavirus is low, and that our preparedness as a city is very high.
So the risk is low, but the preparedness is high. Another lie from the Democrat Party, the city of New York, and of course their beautiful, wonderful New York Times. She goes on to say, Mr. O'Connor,
There is no reason not to take the subway, not to take the bus, not to go out to your favorite restaurant.
so she's saying there's no reason not to take the subway, not to take a bus, and to go out to the many restaurants that are open in New York City. Are you kidding me? When we talk about social distancing, now this woman was appointed by whom? Mr. de Blasio, who is the buffoon mayor of New York City. We also have a state senator. His name is John Liu, and he had this to say.
There's no need to cast aspersions on an entire community because this is happening.
At any rate, there were some things that were going on, some Chinese New Year things, I believe, and there was also the, well, what is that one? Oh, Mr. O'Connor, you're an Irishman, isn't it? What day do you celebrate? Or you don't celebrate it, do you? Yeah, March 17th. Is that corned beef and cabbage day? Yeah. At any rate, he's saying there's no sense in casting dispersion. Just go on out and enjoy yourself. And then we have the Speaker of the New York City Council speaking as well. He's also a Democrat. And what did he have to say?
I've heard reports that many businesses in Chinatown and in Flushing and in Sunset Park and other parts of the city have seen a downturn in business since this news came out.
Okay, he's complaining about the downturn in business and doesn't quite understand why people are beginning to stay in their homes and social distance. So he's had that problem. Now, another one of our favorite guys was CNN, Jim Acosta. He starts reporting that the United States now has more people with the virus than does China, and China has 4 times the population. As CNN also reported, that we now lead the world in cases. So my question to both of you would be, why is this the case that the United States has more cases than any other country in the world?
Well, first of all, the Chinese lie. They're communists.
That's what I was going to say. Go ahead.
So they're not telling you the truth at all about the problem that they have in China, how many people died, nor did they tell you the truth about when the virus started, which we know was back in early November, and they killed the guy that was the whistleblower. So, you cannot believe the Chinese. They are communists through and through. They're all for disinformation. And frankly, they're our enemy. And they want to destroy this country from within, and they have a bunch of useful idiots in the media who have blood on their hands, if anybody does, along with the Democrats that have lost their minds.
Well,
and if I'm not mistaken, adding to that, wasn't there I think a nurse in China who was blowing the whistle and saying that this is worse than the government is saying, and now she's missing?
Well, there were a number of people,
Right.
even some journalists happen to have disappeared. But
Right.
Who knows? Now, I have a little theory about this as well, and we'll go through this. First of all, I believe our testing and our reporting to be much greater than theirs. We have now gotten to the tests where you can take the test and within a matter of 20 minutes to a half an hour, you can get the results. So I think we're reporting things that other countries haven't. I believe out in the wild world here, there's probably millions of cases that have gone undiagnosed around the world. There's like 151 countries now that are have this disease. But one of the things that is so unique about America is something that most people don't understand, including Americans, and that is the concept of federalism. Under our country, we are 50 different states or 50 different countries. And the federal government is not the one that's responsible for the welfare of each particular state. That belongs to the governors. And you can see that because we can travel so freely in the United States, we can get on a plane. If you really wanted to go somewhere, not right now, but in a normal day, you could probably, if you decided you wanted to go to Chicago tomorrow, you could probably go to the airport and buy a ticket. Might be a late flight, but you could be in Chicago tomorrow night. And prior to this, there were no health screenings. And I think we as a people have been able to travel pretty freely across the country. And Lori, as you probably know, right now, a lot of New Yorkers have fled New York and are heading to other states to get away from this. I believe they're spreading the virus.
Well, there's no question, and that's why DeSantis is making them quarantine themselves for 2 weeks when they come down to Florida. But with the open borders, you're going to have people going from areas where they have the virus to areas that don't. Right?
You know, one of the interesting things, the state of Rhode Island, also under Democrat rule and a Democrat governor, happened today to send the police, the state police, to the borders and not let anybody into their state from New York. Constitutionally, I don't know that that's allowable, but whether it is or isn't, she said, let's just let them sue us. But here's the thing I find so ironic. Is the very thing that these are the same people that want open borders to the south and the north of us. They want open borders, but now that this disease is there, they're willing to close their state borders and protect them by their state police. And they're very critical of Donald Trump.
Right. Well, and as talking about the borders, the southern borders, it's Mexico who wanted us to close the border because they don't want the virus going there. So that's interesting.
Yes, there's some very interesting things. There's some very interesting things that have come out of this. You know, we talk about some other things. I wanted to just go over the death rates here. I meet up every day with people that say, "Oh, this isn't a big thing," and you know, our civil liberties are being abused, and there's probably a lot to be said of that. However, this virus is, and depending on who you listen to, 3 to 10 times more contagious than any other viruses that have been known to us. And in certain countries like Italy, the death rate has been 11.75, and we here have one of our, I know an airline pilot who just this week had lost 2 of his cousins in Italy, and they were only in their 40s. So when they say it's an old person's disease and 2 40-year-olds die, 11.75, that means out of every 100 people, 12 people die. In the United States, Spain has got 8.76 deaths per 100. China had 4.5, and right now, and this is depending, I've done some numbers myself in the United States, there's between 1.6 and 1.9, which means less than 2 people die out of, so, but they're expecting a whopping 100,000 people to die. That's an amazing number.
Actually, they're expecting anywhere from 100 to 200,000 if you hear what they're saying, but you know, nobody knows. This is all projected.
Speculation, yeah.
And this is what's so bad. And I want to just address a couple of things here. that I think we all need to be very much aware of. There is
May
not.
I make a comment? May I interrupt real quick here? The other thing I say about the numbers, and maybe I'm wrong about my thoughts on this, but we're hearing about all the people who are infected. Now, they're saying, and there was a number that came out, and I don't recall what the number is, but now they're saying that this amount of people are saying that they're free, that they're no longer infected. My question is, so of all of these people that they're saying is infected since January, February, and then it really took really big hold in March when they started really, I think, taking notice. But of all these thousands of people that are infected, so you're going to say now that they're all still infected? When they're giving such a low number of those who are saying are free. I am so skeptical of the numbers. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I agree when I look at the numbers, and they're talking about 1 to 200,000 deaths, and yet in the United States, I mean, worldwide, they've just passed a million deaths, or not a million, I'm sorry, a million people that have the disease. It's hard to believe that number would be, in the United States alone, be over 20%. So those numbers don't add up to me. Nevertheless.
Well, and the other thing about the numbers with the people who have passed, how many of those, which we'll never know, how many of those were compromised from the beginning? And I don't know anything, I had heard about the 2 in Italy that passed away. Were they compromised to begin with?
Well, I don't think
that's an important part of the numbers, because if you have younger people dying and they were healthy, that's different than young people dying who are already compromised.
Well, I would disagree with that to the extent that if you were sick and somebody put a bullet in your head, were you murdered? That's the question here.
Well, no, because if you have a compromised system already, that is what's playing a part in. That's why one of the reasons why they say the older people have passed, because 1, their age, 2, because they've had compromised systems. So if that
But it wasn't the compromised system that did them in. It was the disease that did them in. Is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but they were already compromised. So regardless that you can already be compromised, get cancer, and then die from cancer, or die from something else, and you can die from pneumonia but not die from the cancer.
Well, I'll let you have that view. I totally disagree with that. Okay. Listen, I wanted to say one thing. We do not have a food shortage in the United States. We do not have a shortage of toilet paper. We don't have a shortage of eggs and so forth. Please, people, when you go to the store, do not hoard things. If we let our normal transportation system work, it will treat us all very well. Now, for some reason or other, there's a toilet paper shortage, and I find this rather unique. But I do want to say this. People are trying all different kinds of things to take care of that particular issue. And you drop those things into the toilet, and you're going to clog your toilets up. You're going to clog the sewer systems up. Please do not make this. If you use other than toilet tissue, please get a plastic bag, put the dispose of it in the bag, and take it out to the trash. But please do not just put everything in the toilet and flush it down and make an assumption that everything's going to be fine.
Well, what I'm hearing is the plumbers are doing a pretty good business, and that's what I'm hearing lately.
Well, we got to avoid that. But at any rate, I want to get on here. I think we need a new slogan, Lori, for President Trump, who is doing an excellent job, and that's the next thing I want to talk about. But I think we need a new slogan called Make America Healthy Again. And I am absolutely amazed at the ability of this man to deal with this issue. Comments?
Oh, no, he has stepped up to the plate, and he's been an absolute fantastic leader. He has been calm. He's dealing with experts. He's listening to everybody, and he's doing what needs to be done. I just worry about the information that he's getting to make these decisions. When Fauci comes up and says we might need to not go anywhere for 10 months, I mean, that's going to destroy this country. And is it going to really help us to ward off a disease, which is a virus? Basically, there's symbiotic relationships in the human body between viruses and bacteria that protect the body from other things. So there's so many things that are going on. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to get ill or be compromised. But there are protocols now with the chloroquine, with zinc, and Z-Paks that are completely taking people out of ventilators and helping them to turn the corner in 24 hours. And then the people that are given this protocol are only being sick 5 or 6 days. And in a normal flu season, you stay home, you get well, and you go back to work, and you have the antibodies. And we are just foreseeing the inevitable that if this is as contagious as they say, everybody at some point will get it, whether it's mild or stronger. And it's like you were mentioning, if you have a compromised immune system, you happen to be older, it can go into pneumonia very quickly. Mm-hmm. But that can happen for anybody with the compounding situation with diabetes, HIV. It doesn't matter. Most of them die, AIDS patients die of pneumonia normally.
Yes.
Or the cancer.
And the pneumonia is a very, I don't know how many people I've known in my life that ended up dying of pneumonia. That wasn't the disease that they got, but that's...
You fall down, break your hip, you go to the hospital, get pneumonia, and die.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, this is unfortunately what, does happen. And I think Trump is being extremely cautious and careful to protect human life at the expense of the economy right now, because people are going to be 1/3 of the people out of work for a sustained period of time. You'll get a point where there's no coming back.
Yes.
And I sometimes think the left would like to see chaos, would like to see social unrest, so they can take power, because this is an exercise for the left to use any crisis in order to take control and power away from the president, and with the media being complicit.
Now we're going to
talk. To elaborate on that, there are a lot of the states that are, and I just caught this. I didn't read it all, but there is a lot of the states are banning that how do you pronounce it? The hydroxychloroquine that they're
New York
banning
State did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So President Trump is up there saying that and the experts are saying that this is something that is working, blah blah blah, and then like New York is saying they're banning it. So what is the motive for wanting to ban it?
Your guess is as good as mine. I wanted to just take a minute and tell people about Lori. Lori has been involved in the political game for many, many years. We were talking today about when I first met her, and I can remember it very well. I was quite impressed with her skill levels and knowledge of politics. But because of her position, she gets to meet a lot of high-powered political types. And she is personally acquainted with the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Could you tell us a little bit about the man? I'm excited about it. I've met him a couple times, but only with large groups. He signed my hat and everything, but you don't get a chance to say hello other than thanks for signing my hat.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump is probably somebody that is somebody very comfortable in his skin. But he really likes to hear people's opinions. So whenever I see him, he always, what's happening in Arizona? Tell me. And, and sometimes I tell him things he doesn't want to hear. And he acts on it immediately. Within a week, you have him working on something. And you're like, okay, I caused this. I got to go to another meeting. But the reality is, he's somebody who's really hones in. He's in touch. He's a decisive executor. He is very smart, and he's somebody and he's very likable, and he has a wicked sense of humor. I mean, he is funny. He's very, very funny, and he also has this self-deprecating kind of humor, which, you know, the left likes to paint him as a narcissist. Well, narcissists take themselves very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Our president actually, he looks at himself and he goes, wow, you know, because he's here for the American people. He loves the American people. He loves this country. He wants you and I to have all the benefits that he had to get to where he is in life. And he wants the American people to live the American dream. That is why I have never met a person, he's not really a politician, a person that was in this office other than Reagan who really loved this country, its inception, our founding principles, the independent, rugged individualism that we all admire about our country and about our people. He is there because for no personal gain. He's not making money. Yeah, I mean, he loves the fact that we love him.
And he gives away
for
all of
doing
his
what
money
he's
that he
doing.
makes as president. He gives it to charities.
Oh, look, I'm telling you right now, our president and his company has taken a huge hit. Who do you think's hit hardest right? Nobody's going to hotel.
Yes.
You know,
And I think they exempted him from any
tourist
aid
industry.
from the
Oh, of
hotel
course they would, because they want
business.
to cripple him further. These are people that are just in a frenzy to destroy a man that loves this country. I mean, he's almost, you know, I hate to say it, but he's in a position where he's taking all the bows and arrows from every corner and standing up. And I really believe he's God's champion for this country at this time.
Oh, I there's no question of that. You know, I had never seen his program, The Apprentice. I was never a big Donald Trump fan.
I loved his
always
show.
felt that he was a wee bit on the conceited side, and especially
He's got an ego, but I haven't met anybody from New York who doesn't.
that doesn't have an ego.
Exactly.
That's for sure. I know.
Lori.
My first acquaintances with New Yorkers, I was almost insulted the way they talked to me, and yet they'd give you the shirt off their back if you ask for it. But they just are very rough and tumble people, and they're resilient. I agree that when the president says we'll come out of this, we will, because Americans are tough, and we're not going to let this get us. But the one thing about him that I never cease to be amazed is he actually, as he gets additional information, he processes it and he moves in the direction that his intellect tells him to move. And I'm really impressed with that. I know at one time
Well, he's a leader. He doesn't do what people tell him to do. He wants all the information. He takes their advice. And then he pivots the way he should, based on the more information, to do the right thing.
Yes.
He wants to do right by the American people.
Yes.
And to add to that is he has how many, quote, experts? Experts
Right.
don't all agree on the same thing. So that's
Right.
that is what makes me absolutely mad about the people who come out and criticize him. As you said, he takes what everybody's telling him, he processes, and I think, and I don't obviously know the man, I wish I did, but I think what he does is he uses, as Randy would say, he uses good sense and comes to a conclusion, and that's the way he wants to follow through. And I hate all the Monday morning quarterbacking that all of these journalists, all these pundits, and even the regular citizens of the left, how they all criticize everything he does. And I'd like to know, what is your answer to all of this? How would you do anything different with possibly the information he's getting from all angles?
Well, you
I
know,
just get real
that's the
frustrated
thing.
when they really criticize him.
Right.
this
and
is
he's privy to more information than we know.
yes.
Exactly.
So actually, I was quite stunned because I know how much he wants to see this country thrive and survive, rather than just survive, but to really thrive, which we were doing. So for him to say we have to do this for another month after 2 weeks of quarantine, there has got to be things that he is privy to that means that there's things that we just don't know, and we can't just continue to speculate. We have to trust and then see what the numbers show and see what happens. But I think the Americans are extremely resilient, and we want to go back. But you can't shut a country down for 6 months or even 3 months and think you're going to get that it's going to come back.
Well, did you hear the? And I don't know his name. He was one of the hotel owners, and he said that after September 11th,
right,
it took the hotel industry 5 years to come back. And I think at that point they were already working at just like a 10% deficit. Mm-hmm. And it took them 5 years to come back. The person that was talking said that they had to lay off 95% of their employees.
Wow.
And it is going to take, and I don't recall what he said, but it's going to take, if the hotel industry comes back from this, it's going to take them at least 10 years. Because if it took 5 years working at a 10% deficit, look at what it's going to do when you're laying off 95% of your people.
Well, this is true. People are still going to wonder until we have, protocols and vaccine in place where you've mitigated it down to below 1%. People are going to, this is forever going to change how people live. And to think government can come swoop in there and basically tell you, okay, this is it. You're not going to do anything and cripple the economy like this. Now, granted, because it's the unknown and there are these fears, but this is not the bubonic plague. It is not Ebola. It is not these diseases. It's a virus. And so look at all these other viruses. Obama did nothing. Nothing has ever been done in history like this. People, hundreds of thousands of people have died from different H1N1 and all these different things. And nobody did anything for 6 months.
And nobody said a word.
Shut down. No, they dealt with it.
And Lori, that's what I say. I said the next time somebody sneezes in 6 months from now, and it's another virus, what have you, are we going to shut down the world again, the United States again, because somebody? And I'm not diminishing this. I'm absolutely not.
Well, at this point, the way I see what's going to be happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see the medical profession now moving back to the United States or some friendly countries. I think the Chinese have...
Well, manufacturing needs to come back. We can't have 95% of our antibiotics being created by China where there's no efficacy, and let alone our generic drugs where some of them don't even work properly because they, if you're not overseeing them, they go on the cheap, and then you might as well take a sugar pill. We can't afford to have that.
And even our military uniforms, some parts of our uniforms were made in China, as well as parts for our F-35 fighter jets, which are air superiority supreme equipment. And there are other countries, if it's cheap labor that our businesses are looking for, we have friendly countries. The Philippines are a prime example of a hardworking, American-loving people that we could start building some of these plants.
Well, I think we need to restructure our tax system and go to something like the fair tax, where you totally get rid of the corporate and personal income tax.
Exactly. And
go to a national sales tax. This would level the field for everybody. It's not fair to pick winners and losers and say to the healthcare industry, oh, we're going to subsidize you to come back here and manufacture. No, get rid of it. The reason we're thriving is not only did we get rid of so many onerous regulations on business, but we dropped the corporate income tax from 38 to 20%. Mm-hmm. And so naturally it's easier to build, because in reality, Greenspan said it, all taxes are consumption taxes. So corporations and businesses don't pay taxes. They basically collect money from you and I who use their goods and services, and then remit it to the government. And it's very onerous, and it's also not something that it takes away. I have a moral problem with it, because our founding fathers forbade an income tax. They thought it was a slave tax. It takes away your sovereignty. So if you decide how to fund government based on what you're spending, you control it. Government doesn't. But now they can extort us at any level they want, whenever they want. and we're stuck. There's nowhere to go, right? And that's never how a free people we're supposed to live. And so, it's true. Whoever has the gold rules and makes the rules. Well, I'd rather have the gold, and I'd rather have them worry about how much I'm giving than the other way around, because then you could downsize government. Plus, you could get rid of half of Washington. You wouldn't need lobbyists anymore. They wouldn't have the incentives that they do now.
Well, up until the time of the American Civil War, we did not have an income tax whatsoever. And all of the monies that we had were from commerce, especially trade with foreign countries.
Taxes, tariffs, duties.
Now, the Civil War, they put on an income tax.
But they only had it for a very short period of time, that income tax. And then it was taken away. And then it wasn't until 1913.
Right. You're right.
And it was only on the robber.
You're a great historian,
1%
Lori.
of the population paid it. Not until after World War II did it become a mass tax.
Yes.
And then Milton Friedman came up with the brilliant idea of having employers collecting it to be efficient. Well, that was stupid, because then you don't have a relationship with your own money, right?
Yes. And the concept...
you're celebrating because government gave you something back. It's your money.
The concept,
yeah, right.
the concept we hear continually is, well, tax the corporations. Well, who do you think the corporations? They don't. They collect them.
No, they don't pay taxes. No. It's basically a scam. Also, they use the tax code to get an unfair advantage over their competition, and also they use it as a lever in Washington. So if you're on House Ways and Means, it's called Gucci Gulch. That's where all the high-paid lobbyists are, because this is where they cut deals. But it distorts the free market. It distorts the economy.
Is Mr. O'Connor talking to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to... Is that okay? Okay. He said he was going to bring me a corned beef sandwich. We started the show out with that, and he ordered one, but the drive-in's closed. At any rate, yes, that's one of the things. Thank you for sharing with us your impressions of the president. I am impressed with this man, and I've seen him grow over the years because, as you know, he started out as almost as a playboy, and then he also was very pro-abortion in his younger years. And I've watched this man mature to the point that I am so impressed with him. And anybody that, in the history books, people are going to be amazed at the growth that this man has, the understanding of government, the dedication he has had to the American people and to God, as a matter of fact. I love it every time he says, in America, we don't worship government, we worship God. And I mean, there's not too many presidents that would even venture into talking about religion that way, and he has, and I love the man, and I'm hoping and praying that he wins this next election by a landslide. Anybody that thinks that he's ruined the economy, that's just not true. The disease has ruined the economy.
That's right.
Thank you for that. Now, Lori, you're currently serving. And what was it, a 2-year term that you're serving?
No, it's a 4-year term.
Has it been that long? Oh my!
Yeah, it's been 4 years.
And so, tell us about the position.
I was elected. Well, the RNC has its executive committee or board, which is
the RNC. By the way, tell what the RNC is, so some people may not know.
Republican National Committee. So the Republican National Committee's governing board is made up of the chairman of every state, committeeman and committeewoman, and we are elected by our delegates for the convention. And what we do is we meet 3 times a year, and we do the business of the RNC. So we make sure the platform is. I'm a conservative. I make sure the platform's conservative. We have our president's back. When I was a very early supporter of Trump. I put the first rally on with Corey Lewandowski here in July of 2015. And I was really impressed with him, and I was impressed with the people that came to that rally. It was a very eclectic mix of people that you normally don't see engaged, which is one of the reasons Trump won. He engaged people who'd never voted before. Yeah. He gave hope because he was a businessman. They're sick of business as usual and politics, right? Yeah. So anyway, I got myself elected to have his back. as National Committee woman. And it's been a really interesting experience. I'm on the Rules Committee. So basically what we do is we do resolutions and we vote every time we get together, and then we get ready for the convention. We make sure everything runs smoothly, and we also, we a lot of the messaging and information we get from the White House goes to the RNC and then comes back here, which our chairman disseminates, and we support that. I go out and speak a lot to the different groups and let them know, what's going on. And I was also chairman of Women for Trump in 2016 here in Arizona. So, but when I first got elected, I have to tell you, 80% of the people at the RNC, after Rance Priebus, was gone, were not for Trump. They were old, leftover from other administrations, and they were never Trumpers. That has changed dramatically. But we don't want to send another never Trumper back to the RNC.
Amen.
So that's why I asked for the vote.
I agree.
And we have so much to do. We got to get the president elected. We got to take back the House and the Senate, and then we have to open up America for business. I think in many ways that this disaster with, this epidemic, well, what do you want to call it? But this virus has taught us many. It's taught us many things, and I think our eyes are wide open as to what has happened with China and how we need to change things and bring things back on shore. So I think we need to look at real solutions that can do this. And Trump's the only president I see who can do it. The Democrats want government to take over everything. They want government to take over the means of production, health care, and basically monocoddle people from cradle to grave, which doesn't work. It takes away your freedom. So you exchange freedom for what? Security? And there is no security. There's no security in life.
Well, I think Benjamin Franklin said, if that's what you want, you'll receive neither.
That's right. That's exactly right. And, and that's not the spirit of the American people. The American people enjoy, they have dignity, respect, they want to work, they love their country. And I have to say, the old Democrat Party was like that. But the Democrat Party is like the invasion of the body snatchers, has become a bunch of Marxist, communist, leftists who want to reshape this country in the image of a China or Venezuela. They really think that government's the answer to everything. And it's not.
Right.
And it's really a deception, because all they want really is power and control. And then you lose everything.
We have a young man here with Project Arizona that from Argentina. His name is Nicholas, but everybody calls him Nico. And he's very much into free markets and American capitalism. He's a Trumper, although he's a young man. He's just had his birthday last week, turned 25. And I asked him, what would you tell American children that are toying with the youth? I shouldn't say children. American youth that are toying with the idea of Bernie Sanders and socialism. And he thought for a minute, and he said, what I would tell them is to spend about 6 months in Cuba or Venezuela and then see what their thoughts are on socialism.
Or even Nicaragua. I mean, seriously. The government owns everything. They take away your land. They just, and this is what you can count on: a wholesale takeover of means of production, your rights to own everything. I mean, all of that's up for grabs if you give away your freedom. And I don't see America doing that.
Well, but what I have said is how easy. I'm hoping that America doesn't do that, Lori, because what I see is how easy it has been for Americans to give up their freedoms, to give up their rights over this virus. Look at the government has basically mandated for businesses to close, to shut their doors for this virus. And what I've always said is you give an inch and it will go the mile. And that is the problem that I've had with this whole this whole shutdown of everything, businesses being told to shut down, we're all in lockdown, so on and so forth in some states. If you even go out after they're closing their bridges, they're putting blocks up so people aren't tempted to go out. That I have a really big problem with because, as I said, you give an inch, and it's just a slippery slope of what's to come if Americans don't start to stand up and say, you know what, enough is enough.
Well, let me explain something that's going on right here in the city of Phoenix, and this has kind of got me too. So far, I like the way our governor has kind of dealt with things. He hasn't taken a lot of our rights away from us, although we're kind of sequestered in one hand, but in the other hand, they're not doing anything. The mayor of Chicago says if you go out, they can arrest you. And I thought, well, where's this due process for the law? I mean, doesn't somebody have to change the law for you to arrest me for going out after what you consider? There's no martial law. But the interesting thing here that I might add is we have, for those of you that are not or listening and you're not from here, the weather this time of year is phenomenal, and you want to be outside. We have beautiful parks. A lot of things are in bloom, and I know because I've got allergies to them. But the mayor of Phoenix, also a Democrat, wants to close down the parks. Well, when our park system is so advanced that you can walk in some of them and not see anybody. South Mountain's a good example. You can go to South Mountain, you won't see anybody for a half an hour. It's so huge, and a lot of the local parks. But the point here is, during the same time, they're keeping the public transportation open, the trains and the buses, where people are confined in a little tube sitting next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, and yet they want to close down the parks. Now, that's just raw power, and it's not an intelligent use of...
And golf courses are open.
Yes.
Nail salons are open.
Exactly.
I can even hopefully get my hair cut on Saturday. But one at a time. So, and everybody's taking extra cleanly precautions with everything, wearing masks. So, I'm with you. I am really concerned. This cannot be the new normal.
No, not at all.
I mean, somebody sneezes and you close the country down. I'm sorry. It really, it should not be the new normal. And we need to get to the bottom of this and figure out rapid responses for anything new coming down and be ready for anything, but not, this shutting down is not the answer.
Well, and elaborating on what you said, Ron, I have to carry a letter in my car because I'm an essential service worker. So if I do this is what I'm saying. If I am out and I get stopped for whatever reason and they want to see why I'm out, I have to give them this letter to tell them I work for an essential service.
Show us your papers.
I shouldn't have to do that.
Can I say that with a German?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Can I say that with a German accent? Show us your papers.
Exactly. Show us your papers. And that is wrong, in my opinion. And this is
not in America. It's totally wrong in America. Other countries
totally
can accept it, but we cannot and we will not accept this as the norm.
And I'm hoping that we don't. But what I see on the other side, the left is, I think that they have not a really big problem with it because it is all under the security of the people, because the left, on one hand, they're saying go out and do everything, back in January and February, go out and do what you want, don't let this stop you. But now the flip side of the coin is, no, you have to listen to what you're being told. And this is what I say is always a slippery slope. Anytime there is a change like this, it's usually gradual, or by the time we blink our eyes, it's all changed. And we, as conservatives, are saying, what happened? And it's because it was allowed to happen.
Let's change the subject here because we're only about 10 minutes left in the show. And I have a lot of concern, and Gloria and I spoke about this, Lori, and that is the stimulus package. The stimulus package, obviously, is designed to keep our economy clicking somewhat. I'm not sure that I'm totally in favor of this, but I understand that out of the goodness of some people's hearts. And then we have, once again, we have the Democrat Party. And Gloria, you've written a couple of things about, the things that Democrats have tried to put through. Nancy Pelosi is the biggest opposition to any sense of logic that there is in terms of how can we help the American people by increasing abortion. List some of these things, the $35 million to the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. How is that helping?
It was $25 million because they took 10 because President Trump said that they were able to get 10 million out of it, but they gave 25 million, and then the Kennedy board came out and said, so that is supposed to keep people employed and be able to continue to pay, and then they turn around and say, we're laying all of you off.
Now,
where is that money going?
Let me tell you one thing that I was a little upset about that. But one thing I thought, why would the president do this? Well, a lot of people don't know this, but the current board office was over. Their term of office was over March 31st, and Trump had appointed a whole new board for the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. So now he has his own people in there. They're good conservatives, I'm hoping, and that $25 million will not be frivolously spent. Some other issues.
Bring the people back.
Well, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, there's too many things going on right now to know exactly what what each area is doing. But list a couple of other things, Gloria. You had done some research on this that the Democrats tried to put through. They held this bill up for well over a week, ladies and gentlemen, trying to put pork in it.
Right. Now, what I do know, one of the special deals is that was tucked into the bill was that the FDA reviews newer, and I don't know how much, I didn't see, and I couldn't find how much was allotted for this, but that the FDA reviews newer and more novel ingredients for over-the-counter sunscreen products in a timely fashion.
Yeah, we need to spend money on that. That's really well worth the money.
That's well worth the money. And now I don't know. I know what her proposed were. One of them was the wind and solar tax credits. I had heard that a lot of the pork that she wanted is not in there. So I haven't been able to find where a lot of the things that she said she wanted. I don't think a lot of that made it. But then one of the other, there was a deal that made it easy for Congress to give money for harbor dredging by exempting from discretionary spending caps the Army Corps of Engineers funding provided through the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. And evidently, Shelby was somebody who voted for this. He's a Republican in Alabama. He was one who has been trying to get more money for dredging on their harbors. Mm-hmm. And so he and another Oregon, Peter DeFazio, they are, I know, both recipients of more money for this. To me, it's like, what does that have to do with the coronavirus?
Well,
absolutely nothing.
And they're in, Lori stated it right off the get-go, and that is the Democrats' mantra of never let a good crisis go to waste. They'll grab power and they'll grab money the minute they have any kind of an opportunity.
Yeah, and they wanted to mess with the elections and go to all paper ballot, which is totally dangerous because they're ballot harvesting now. And it's unbelievable how when the Democrats register, it's amazing how their percentage of their voters that actually send their ballots in because they go and collect them. I mean, they've got neighborhoods. They have a ground game. that really, is amazing, because they are bent on winning and cheating if they need to, and it's much easier to cheat. We should at least sequential or number our ballots or figure out a way never to have blank ballots, because they were giving blank ballots to people that were not even they weren't even, if they didn't even take ID.
Yeah.
So you don't know how many times they voted, let alone whether they were really qualified to vote in this state. And the cheating that's been going on, and the fact that we had 600,000 ballots here in Maricopa County after election, nobody knows where they came from. Oh, the post office. Yeah, no, I highly doubt it.
This last election was tragic.
They stole this last election, and
Yeah, they did.
we can't have cheating. We need to look at. Look, with our data and technology age, we should really figure out how to make sure there is no cheating. There's one man, one vote, not one dog or dead person.
Switching gears real quick. We're almost out of time. Lori, tell us about the upcoming election, why people should vote for you, who's eligible to vote, obviously, and why they should vote for you, and continue your service for another 4 years.
Well, our election is with the state delegates on May 9th. Now, we probably are going to have an electronic virtual meeting of some kind, and only state delegates, and you don't have to be a PSC to be a state delegate, but you're voting on people that are going to go to the convention, and you're voting for the committee man and committee woman at that election. So I ask for your vote because I'm going to have your back as a conservative to the RNC for Arizona, as well as have the president's back. So I will have your back and the president's in going forward in our country. And I've done a lot of radio, television interviews for the president about America First, when I was chairman of Women for Trump, why I supported Trump, and it made national news. This is what you do. You stand up for this president.
Yes.
You don't shy away from it. And you do your part. And there's a lot of things that we do that we can't even talk about, but they're things that make a difference for Arizona and for this country and for our freedom and liberty, which is what I'm about. I am here because I have a great love for our founding fathers and what they've given us, and we want to give that on. I have 3 sons. I want them to live their American dream, not under socialism, believe me. So, we're in a battle here for this country, and you want somebody who's going to fight, as I did down at the legislature when I was a state senator. And so that's why I need and want the votes of our delegates that are going to be at this convention, and I will do my best to make you proud, which I have, and believe I've worked very well with several chairmen, as well as Bruce Ash, who actually works really hard and did a good job, and he's a lot more conservative than I thought.
Oh, he's a great person.
He really is.
He's
good
wonderful.
Guy,
and let me ask you this: so you think that we may not have the convention per se, but it will be telephonically?
They're not going to allow people probably to gather in big groups, even if we're out of quarantine, which we have no idea whether it'll extend.
Are there plans underway for that?
Yes, it has to be approved by the RNC. So there's plans to do that now in a way that we can make sure that the votes are counted properly.
Yes, that's for sure. Lori,
and then I'm going to try to get my message out to all the delegates through email. Hopefully the party will send them out for us if they don't want to give us the list, and send out what we want sent out. And I have one opponent.
We got our music is coming up here, so we've forgone all of our commercials tonight because we wanted to hear what you have to say. I'm very, very impressed with what you've said, and of course I've known you for a number of years and supported you in the past and will continue to do so. I'll be talking to you in the next day or two. We're going to have to close this up right now, Lori. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. I have some ideas
Gloria,
that you may want to hear.
So thank you, Lori.
And Gloria, stay healthy, and Everybody out there in the audience, thank you very much for listening tonight. This has been a Hub Radio production, and we'll see you all again next week on Fighting Back.